owe it to someone? How can you take it for granted? How can you take good health for granted? So when you understand the value of all this, you get into this sense of indebtedness, and you want to pay back to society, pay back to the nation, pay back to this divine force. Not that you can do anything. How can you repay that entity, that divine force, that benevolent force, for giving you eyesight? Can you put a price on it? And what can you do? But it's the attitude. You offer a token, just as you go to the garden, you pluck a flower and you offer it to the Lord in the temple. Does that make any sense? Where are you plucking the flower from? God, His garden, correct. His creation. The flower belongs to Him. And it is happily sitting there on the tree, which is its natural environment. Unnecessarily you go and pluck it. And then you offer it to the Lord and say, feel great that I have done puja. What have you done? You haven't done anything. And yet it has meaning because you're doing it with the spirit of gratitude. It's the same way that a 5-year-old kid, your kid, comes to you one fine day and says, Mommy or Papa, give me 500 rupees. And you say, you want 500 for what? And the kid says, no, I have to give the teacher for something, some project. And you are preoccupied with your own problems, so you don't know what's happening, you give the money. 1 week later, it's your birthday. So your little son comes to you early in the morning, wakes you up when you're fast asleep, and gives you a little packet that is badly wrapped, because he's done it himself, and says, happy birthday. You open it and you realize the 500 rupees that he took from you last week is what he's gone to a shop and bought something which perhaps is completely useless to you. You don't need it, you can't use it, and yet it gives you such a thrill. It gives the child such a thrill. Why? It's the attitude, it's the spirit in which the whole thing is done that matters, not what is done. In the same way, whatever we do as an act of repayment to God or the nation or to society will be imperfect, exactly like that child badly wrapping the gift, bad selection of the gift perhaps. But that's not what matters. What matters is the spirit in which you give it. So this is indebtedness. You understand it's your obligation to repay. The Gita, Krishna in the 3rd chapter says very emphatically, if you don't perform yajna, means if you don't act in a spirit of service and sacrifice, stena evasa, you're a thief. One who takes from society without repaying is a thief. He uses a strong word. But he uses this strong word to get the message across to us. And you might look at yourself and say, no, I'm not a thief, I haven't taken anything. But if you think a little more, you'll find that yes, I have taken hordes of things from millions of sources, and I haven't so much as even thought of repayment. So today, if the few of us that are here go back home and get into this, what they call as payback mode, by God, you'll change the face of society. You'll change the face of Mumbai city. Instead, we all may spout platitudes. In the next 5 years, Bombay will be another Shanghai. It will not. It will not as long as we don't have this attitude of service. In the next 25 years, India will be an economic power. I hope it is. But you and I have to work for it. It doesn't happen automatically. How many of us are conscious that we must repay this wonderful nation for what it has provided us? The moment you get out of this country and you come back, you understand that it's different here. Yes, there are ills in society, but there is this very strong spiritual foundation which is denied to all other nationalities. And it is this that we need to build on. It is this that we need to be grateful for. It is this for which we have to repay and do Guru's service. Next, devotion. Devotion comes from a sense of gratitude. It's automatic. Service-mindedness and devotion comes together. And then you develop what is known as a worshipful attitude. If you fall ill, what is the first thought that comes to your mind? Oh God, why does this have to happen to me? It never occurs to you. 50 years of your life you've had good health. If 3 days you fall ill, what is there to complain about? Take it in your stride. This is devotion. Anything that comes to you, whatever happens to you, you should be able to accept it as prasad from the Lord. Why? Because if you look at it in the totality, the suffering that you go through, the evil that happens to you, the bad things that happen to you is so insignificant compared to the millions and millions of good things that happen to you. It's not worth thinking about. So this is this acceptance and good grace. When you have a devotional approach, you have the strength to accept whatever happens in life as prasad. Verse 24.
Sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvana sheshataha manasaivendriyagramam viniyamya samantataha.
Having renounced all desires born of imagination, totally controlling the group of senses from all sides by the mind. What he's referring to is Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman, all desires born of Sankalpa. Sankalpa means imagination. Just a thought, just an idea. All Sankalpas, all desires are imaginary, and these imaginary thoughts come to you because of a sense of emptiness. All of us, from morning to night, from birth to death, experience this sense of emptiness, unfulfillment, incompleteness, and it is this that drives us mad. It is because of this sense of emptiness that you want to go out into the world to obtain objects and be whatever it is that you want to grab. With the belief that when you grab things from the world, this emptiness will go. But does it go? Has it gone? All your life you've been doing this. Has this sense of emptiness left? No, it haunts you. It keeps coming back again and again and again. Why? The Gita says, simply because the emptiness is imaginary. Your whole life you're chasing things. It's like a dog chasing its own tail. Have you seen this? The dog keeps going round and round and round trying to chase its own tail, and you and I are doing exactly that. For what? To fill an emptiness that does not exist? If this is not insane, then what is? So, yet we feel this emptiness. And we feel it because we are ignorant of our fullness. So, how do you renounce all desires born of imagination? By understanding your fullness, by coming face to face with, yes, I am full, I am complete, I am totally fulfilled. For which you need knowledge. So, with the knowledge, as you acquire the knowledge of Vedanta, knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, and you understand your fullness, you turn introvert, then these sankalpas, these imaginary thoughts that come out from you ceaselessly, they reduce. So having renounced all desires, relatively you are in a state where you have very few desires. The prerequisite to meditation is that you should have few desires. And this is signified by a coconut. You know, when you offer a coconut in prayer, in worship, in a temple or in puja, you don't just buy the coconut from the market and offer it as it is. What is done to it? All the other fibers are removed and only one little tuft of fibers is kept, right? And that coconut you offer, which signifies that you have divested your personality of all desires except a few. And those few desires are desire to develop yourself, desire to study the Gita, desire to do service, desire to develop your devotion, this, that and the other. And this is such a relief. When you have divested your personality of desires, your mind reaches what is known as a gathered state instead of a scattered state. You yourself call a person who is distracted, what do you call him? Scatterbrain, right? All of us are scatterbrain. Because one day you come up with one idea, oh, let's start a business. Next day, I want to take a job. Third day, I want to do MBA. Fourth day, something else. Every day you're coming up with something new. Why? Because of this scattered state of mind, distracted state of mind. And Shankaracharya calls this in the Bhaja Govindam. He says, Ate kanta dhanagata chinta vatulakim tavanasti niyanta trijagati sajjana sangati reka bhavati bhavarnavatarane nauka. Kate kanta dhanagata chinta. Why are you worrying about wife, wealth, this, that, and the other? Is there not an order? His case is Vaktula is a distracted fool, he calls all of us. Is there not an ordainer? Is there not the law of karma that is functioning? Why are you unnecessarily getting distracted? And how do you help change your state of mind from a scattered state to a gathered state? The Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter, verse 41, shows us the way. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana bahushakhayanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. He says, the intellect is that which helps you, a resolute intellect, a determined intellect, helps you to get your mind from this scattered state to a gathered state. And he says the thoughts of an irresolute intellect, thoughts of an irresolute person who is not determined, are Bahushakha and Ananta. Bahushakha means scattered. And Ananta, endless. As long as you're going out into the world for fulfillment, you will never reach the state of fulfillment. Your seeking, your striving, your chasing will continue endlessly. Do you know any single individual in the world who has reached the state of completeness, fulfillment, chasing objects of the world? The richest man in the world goes around looking for more avenues to gain wealth. It's not as if he says, oh, I'm the richest man in the world, now let me look for something else. No. He wants more wealth. The only way you can get to that state of fulfillment is get your intellect to control your desires. Be determined. Give yourself a focus of attention. Fix a higher goal. Fix a goal for yourself. This is what I want to achieve in my life. And then you find that this scatterbrained attitude goes. What a relief it is. What a relief that you're not thinking, oh, let me do this, let me do that, let me do this. And you're focused. That's what he's saying here. Having renounced all desires born of imagination, totally controlling the group of senses from all sides. Sense control, he keeps on and on saying, because if you have a weakness for even one sense object, just one, it's enough to devastate your personality. Shankaracharya and Vivekachudamani gives examples of 5 creatures who have a weakness for one sense object and get destroyed. The deer has weakness for sound and it gets killed. The moth has a weakness for light. It keeps circling the flame until it gets burnt. The elephant has a way, when it's during the season, it runs helter-skelter and gets caught in the pit, so on and so forth. The fish eating is caught by the bait. You and I have a weakness for all 5 senses, and Shankaracharya says, God help us. And yet, it's not such a hopeless situation, because we have an intellect with which to control it. And this control must start from childhood. The development of the intellect must start from childhood. When this is not done, then you get into a situation. See, today the young have exposure to so many objects of the world, and intellect is not developed. This is a highly dangerous thing, because you can fall for anything at any time, and then you've had it. And this is what's happening. It's a pity that the young people with so much energy, so much dynamism, so much potential, so much talent, before they know what's happening, they're getting into some addiction or the other. And the rest of their life is spent in desperately trying to get out of that addiction. What a tragedy. So anyway, this is the prerequisites, and now we move to verse 25.
शनै शनैरुपरमेद् बुद्ध्या धृतिगृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किञ्चिदपि चिन्तयेत्.
Shanai Shanai, little by little, gradually, let one gradually, step by step, attain serenity with a resolute intellect. With mind fixed in the self alone, let one not think of anything else. So he's begun to understand our dilemma. See, we have not developed the intellect. We don't have control over the senses and the mind. And then it seems like such an intimidating task. So he says, don't worry. There's so much compassion in what he says. He comes down to our level. He says, don't worry, do it little by little. One thought at a time. The intellect today, whatever intellect you have, you find it's incapable of controlling your demands and indulgences. Doesn't matter. Do it step by step. One step at a time if you take, you'll get there very soon. It's like this. If at night you want to drive to Pune from here, you'll say, how will I get there? My headlights illumine only, say, 20 feet. And the distance is so great and the whole road is in darkness. For which, what will you say? Start moving. Take one step at a time. Start moving. And then you find that the whole distance is illumined. You don't have one patch of darkness. Why? Because your headlights, which go 25 feet, by the time you cover the first 25 feet, they illumine the next 25 feet. And thus you go on, and he gives us this confidence. All you have to do is make up your mind. Be determined. And with this resolute intellect, step by step, you will slowly attain serenity. Don't look for instant results, please. Anybody who promises instant results, there's something wrong there. Even financially, if somebody comes to you and says, I have a formula by which you'll get 500% returns, what would you say? Keep away from that. Because it's not possible. Similarly, if somebody comes to you and says, all you have to do is come to this person and he'll put your hand on your head, instantly you'll become realized, these things don't happen. You have to put in effort. As you yourself have seen earlier in this chapter, he says, Uddhared Atmanatmanam, lift yourself by yourself. You have to put in effort. But the only thing that you are assured of is every little bit of effort you put in will give you the fruit, the result will come. So little by little, step by step, you will attain that serenity with a resolute intellect. And with mind fixed in the self alone, you must have an ideal. If you don't have self-realization as an ideal, it doesn't matter. If you can't suddenly rise to that level, fix an unselfish goal which is beyond your self-centered interests. That's enough. By the time you get there, your mind will expand to accommodate something more. And that's how you get to the highest. And let one not think of anything else. Once you fix a goal, let your personality be focused there. 26.
यतो यतो निश्चरति मनश्चञ्चलमस्थिरम् ततस्ततो नियम्यैतत् आत्मन्येव वशं नयेत्.
Wherever, in whatever direction the restless and unsteady mind wanders, let one rein it in and bring it under the control of Atman, self alone. What he's saying here is that the nature of the mind itself is that it is restless and unsteady. Asthira chanchal. It flits from place to place, and even at a place is restless. That's why the mind is compared to the monkey. And that's why in the Ramayana, Rama collected the monkey forces to overcome Ravana. Many people criticize and say, why does he have to go to monkeys? It's because it signifies how a person who has broken away from Atman, the self, can get back. How can you get back? You have to collect your thought forces together, and that the thought forces are represented by monkeys, because monkeys are restless and unsteady. So this mind of yours, even after offloading desires and reducing them, which he said earlier, when you fix a point of concentration in meditation, the mind will tend to waver. The mind will get distracted and move away. So when you're meditating, you need to, the moment the mind goes, rein it in, keep bringing it back and bring it under the control of the self. And how do you know you're prepared? The preparation for this is a wonderful concept that the Gita has put. Sarva bhuta hite rataha. You should revel in the welfare of all beings. Today what are we doing? We are reveling in the downfall of people. You may not believe it, but that's why in the media, whether it's television or newspaper or whatever it is, what do they call it? Breaking news is always negative, isn't it? So many people died, and so-and-so was arrested, and so-and-so got, imprisoned, and all kinds of things. Why do they give that? Because there is a satisfaction you get, serves him right. Some excise official gets arrested, say, all the black money he's making. It gives you a thrill. And what he's saying is just the opposite. Sarva bhuta hite rataha. In the Oliver Goldsmith, in his work called Village Preacher, puts this across so magnificently. There's a simple village preacher who goes to a village, leaves the city, and goes to a village, and he describes him. He says, unpracticed he to fawn or seek for power, by doctrines fashioned to the varying hour. For other aims his heart had learned to prize, more skilled to raise the wretched than to rise. Service-mindedness. And then he describes his guests. Who are his guests? Not celebrities. The ruined spendthrift, the broken soldier, a beggar. These are the people that he welcomes, and he, with utmost hospitality. And he says, his house was known to all the vagrant train. He chid their wanderings, but relieved their pain. Then he says, pleased with his guests. Which guests? These three. The beggar, the broken soldier, and the ruined spendthrift. Pleased with his guests, the good man learned to glow, and quite forgot their vices in their woe. Careless their merits or their faults to scan. And then he says, thus to relieve the wretched was his pride, and even his failings leaned to virtue's side. So the capacity to reach out to people, the capacity to take pleasure in their what good happens to them, and share in their sorrow is something that is a preparation to meditation. Now you can't say, I want to meditate and have all negative thoughts in your mind. That's what he's saying here. In whatever direction the restless mind goes, rein it in. You have the capacity to rein it in only if you have this prerequisite. Sarva bhuta hite rata. Fabulous thing. So, once you have this, then you proceed. And verse 27.
प्रशान्तमनसं हीनं योगिनं सुखमुत्तमम् उपैति शान्तरजसं ब्रह्मभूतमकल्मषम्.
Thus this yogi attains supreme bliss, whose mind is totally